Yeah, on to Philly. What
Philly.
is the right kind of player to add to this team? And I think this is a really interesting question because, the Paul George stuff has been out there. I mean, I think we first wrote that in a notebook at like the end of the trade deadline, like sweeping up the dust and picking up the pieces and see what could forecast ahead. And Paul George to Philly has been a thing for a while now in the rumor mill. Paul George to Orlando has come up of late. There's been thought of him potentially reuniting with Indiana. I mean, Paul George could fit anywhere, which is part of why he could be the obvious answer in Philadelphia. My one thing, though, is that to me, if you're looking around the league right now, most of these teams are really built off of like two main offensive hubs, and everyone else is a complementary piece to that. And sure, you don't have, it's not like how a team has to be built, right? Like Boston, you could look at all six of their starters as like hubs of their offense, and Porzingis does a whole different thing about stretching their floor and his size and what have you. But to me, like, just looking at the depth that Philly was struggling with against New York, and we just did a whole 20-minute segment at the top about how their depth really isn't anything to be so proud of right now. That, to me, I would rather split their $60 million in space on three real dudes as opposed to one 34-year-old guy with his own injury history.
Yeah,
who has his own past postseason, checkered history.
Oh, playoff P? Talking about our guy Playoff P?
Talking about Playoff P. I've been banging the table for you go out and get KCP. You go out and overpay a backup center who could maybe even play some double big lineups. I don't know if I've said this on the pod. I really don't remember. I was thinking about Isaiah Hartenstein for them during the Knicks series.
He has made himself a lot of money this season in this playoffs.
He is. Something maybe to write about later. I have some thoughts and details there. But yeah, my thing is go get your real two-way. Go get your KCP for Denver, which he'll be available. Go get that backup center. Go get that connective four-man who does everything that you would want Tobias Harris to do. And better spend your resources that way. I don't think there's the right kind of player to add to this team. My argument is break that omelet into 3 eggs.
Okay. I don't know that that's
I was
how
trying to make you
work.
laugh. I was trying to make you laugh.
Okay. I'm hang on. I haven't cooked in a little bit, but I think omelets work a little differently. Obviously, Jake, I cook every goddamn time.
Make 3 eggs. Make an omelet with 3 eggs.
Then break it up. Then
instead
deconstruct
of
the omelet.
one.
Deconstruct it. There you go. Obviously, also just to finish that thought, I cook every time I sit down at the goddamn keyboard and the microphone. So I've been cooking. What I would say, I think if you were just if you were looking for one player to fit between Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, yeah, Paul George would be. It'd be pretty hard to draw up or sketch out a better fit where it's big wing size, multi-positional defender, elite movement shooter, guy who can run pick and roll, but doesn't need to be a 70 touches a game guy, 80 touches a game guy. Kind of fits in everywhere. It's why Paul George, there was that story, I think it was Myung Masuk at ESPN wrote the why Paul George is sort of everybody's GOAT now and why he's the iconic build, because he fits everywhere. He's frictionless addition. So from a
skill set is different than the player though.
Yes, right. And so if you were looking to add a skill set between those two guys, that checks off pretty much every box. This particular package, though, is 34 years old. You'd be paying $212 million through the 38 season for somebody who I think 4 of the last 5 seasons had missed significant time to injury and load management, et cetera. And as you mentioned, it's not exactly he has had soaring postseason highs, but it's not confirmed consistent riser. And in an environment where obviously postseason trauma and psychosis is, the rule rather than the exception, you could just really close your eyes and envision Paul George in Philadelphia going horrendously. But you're right. I mean, I think if you are able to, I guess my challenge here is that I don't know when I look at it and say, who are the three guys between the age range that are also the right positional fit, that are also two-way players that you feel confident are going to be able to be on the floor in high leverage situations, et cetera. Like it's hard to find one of those guys, let alone three, especially in a free agency class that might not be particularly redolent with talent given all the extensions that have been out there before. But certainly Daryl Morey in that front office will be doing their due diligence on all of it. I think that my bet would be Daryl Morey wants to go get a star more than Daryl Morey wants to get three role players.
I agree. He said that basically.
But I get your point. I think, and especially as we're seeing, we get to this time of year, like the war of attrition, like the more healthy quality bodies you can throw at problems, the better. And as we've seen also with like the way Oklahoma City's been playing, the way Minnesota's been playing, the younger you can get in those spots, the better, because old guys get hurt this time of year.
Yeah. No, I think the question is what would we do, not what we thought Daryl Morey would do, which is why I was providing that perspective. Because Paul George is definitely, to me, if I could look into my crystal ball and see into Daryl's thoughts, it would be Paul George. That'd be my thought.